I packed 3 things that most backpackers would laugh at until they try them. Every backpacker knows the core gear list: shelter, sleep system, pack. But after 3,000 miles on trail, I found a few things that never show up on the packing lists. At first, they felt unnecessary until they fixed problems I didn't even realize I had. Now, I will not start a trip without them. And guys, I post weekly gear tips based on over 100 solo backpacking trips, so if you want advice that works on real trails, consider subscribing. Alright, I used to think that fingerless gloves were one of those weird extra pieces of gear you see in backpacking forums. The kind of thing you bring when you're already carrying way too much stuff. Then someone gave me a pair of -33 merino wool fingerless gloves as a gift, and I figured they'd live in the gear bin after one trip. Instead, they've been in my pack ever since, quietly fixing all those little trail annoyances I didn't realize were adding up. Here's the thing, I still carry regular gloves. I'm not out there pretending that fingerless gloves are all you need when it's 25 degrees and dumping snow. But what I found is that they do a completely different job. Full gloves are for real cold, for wet weather miles when you just want to keep moving. These fingerless ones fill that awkward middle ground where your hands are getting stiff, but full gloves would just kind of slow everything down. And that in-between space is pretty much all of camp life. Cooking dinner, hanging a bear bag, setting up your shelter, even pulling a quilt into place. I'll even hike in these on those frosty mornings when it's not quite cold enough for full gloves, but I still don't want my hands numb for the first few miles. And what really made them a permanent part of my kit was my phone use. On most trips now, I rely on my phone for my maps, my notes, weather checks, and sometimes even a little downloaded entertainment before bed. And I've tried the touchscreen gloves, but it seems that once the screen gets a little wet or the gloves get a little dirty, I usually end up just pulling the gloves off when I use my phone. These guys skip that hassle entirely, and they layer well too. On colder nights, I'll keep the fingerless gloves on while cooking or filtering water, then slide a heavier glove right on top of them when I don't need my fingers as much. And because they're made of merino wool, they cover every base that I want for trail gear. They stay warm even when they're damp, they dry quickly when you need them to, and they don't get that stale smell after a few days of use. And I've linked the -33 fingerless gloves that I use down below. So I bought my first hammock on Amazon, mostly out of curiosity. I wasn't looking to overhaul my sleep system or anything. I just wanted something to string up around camp, take a nap if I stumbled onto the right pair of trees, and ignore if I didn't. But after a few trips, I realized I was looking forward to setting up the hammock as much as pitching my tent. And fast forward a few years, and now I've actually gone all in on hammock camping myself. Underquilts, suspension, tarps, the whole setup. But that's a whole different conversation and not really what I'm talking about here. I've got a video comparing tent camping versus hammock camping, linked below if you want to see which one makes the most sense for different trips. But this is about just bringing a casual hammock even when the tent is your primary shelter. And for me, it's turned into this little corner of my camp where I can stretch out, let the day slow down, dry out some gear in the sun, and just stop moving for a while. One of the nights that sold me on bringing a hammock on my backpacking trips was a night along Yosemite's North Rim. I set up my tent on the top of North Dome, then hiked to the very peak with my hammock. I found 2 trees lined up perfectly right on the edge, strung up the hammock, and watched Half Dome glow orange and pink from across the valley as the sun went down. Once the light faded, I packed up the hammock and headed back to the tent, but that sunset sealed the deal. But there's one thing that does need to be said. If you do ever think about trying to sleep in that casual hammock, you're going to need some kind of bottom insulation. Without it, cold air seeps right through and you'll feel it fast. Now, if you're counting every ounce, a hammock might not make sense. But for me, it shifts how the trip feels. It breaks up the grind, makes camp feel more relaxed. And on those warm spring afternoons when I'm ahead of schedule, there's nothing better than knowing I've got a spot to just stop moving for a while. And if you want to try bringing along a hammock, the Eno hammock that kicked off my hammock journey and came along on that North Dome trip is linked below. And guys, I post tips like this every week, so remember to hit subscribe if you want more ideas like these. So everyone's got some version of a first aid or repair kit in their pack. It's one of those givens. You throw in the bandages, a lighter, maybe some duct tape, and call it good. But over time, I started to notice that there were these odd little moments on trips where the standard kit didn't really help much. Things that weren't emergencies, but still had a way of killing the mood if I didn't deal with them. And that's how this third thing ended up in my pack. It's actually not a single item, but a few tiny repair kit extras that live in the same pouch. And the last one is probably something you've never packed until you really wish you had it. All right, an extra backup phone cable doesn't sound like trail gear, but my phone pulls a lot of weight. Maps, photos, even a movie at night. One broken charging cord and all of that disappears. So I tuck a tiny 6-inch spare into my repair kit. I've never had to use it, but if the main one snapped mid-trip, that little backup would feel like gold. And so I wear glasses, and I keep a single pair of 24-hour contact lenses in my repair kit for true emergencies only. If my glasses ever cracked or disappeared out on a trip, at least I'd have a way to see well enough to finish out the trip. So lastly, these are my break glass in case of emergency stash. I carry TP and wet wipes for daily use out on the trail, but these compressed paper towels stay buried until I run out or something unexpected happens. They're tiny, probably don't even weigh a gram, but with a splash of water, they puff up and they become a regular paper towel. One time an outhouse that I was counting on was completely out of TP, and another time I just wanted to wash my face and everything else had already been used. Having a couple of these tucked away means I'm not rationing wipes or guarding that last square of TP. And just to be clear, these are not biodegradable and they always need to be packed out. But they're light, tough, and forgiving, right up until you're glad they're there. Now, none of these are flashy or essential, but they're the kind of quiet, morale-preserving items that make solo trips especially smoother and reduce the ugh, I wish I had moments. And if you want to see the rest of my repair and first aid setup, I've got a full walkthrough of my kit coming next week. It's lean, tested, and includes a few other things most people leave behind. And if you want to check out some more gear that always makes it into my pack, this video covers the 5 backpacking items that I would absolutely buy again. So let me know if you found any of these interesting or if there's any unusual items that you bring in your pack. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there.